Okay guys, I'm here today with Guilherme Mendes, huge honor for me, Tainan. Guys, Gui just shot an entire instructional for IBJJF Fanatics, all about like calculating distance on how to pass the guard, and he was one of the best ones on it. I mean, like your division was probably like the toughest division to play on top,
it's hard
and
to
you were always the one passing everybody's guard. And today you're gonna show us one of your favorite techniques from the instructional, right?
Yeah. So the way I broke it down, it's I showed a lot of concepts there, and I showed a little bit of like the techniques that I like. So like that was like the first because it was the first instructional. I wanted to show what's behind the techniques, what like my way of thinking, my way of like seeing the game on top. But I also showed a little bit of the techniques, like my favorite techniques and my favorite concepts from each technique. I gave a list of like the drills that I like to use and the drills that we use here to improve like work, to improve like, your mobility on top. And I want to show a little bit more of like my vision in one specific technique. Like this will be like only one technique that I'm gonna show now, and I want you to see like the way like I understand this technique and like what I like to use. So
yeah, I love how you broke down the system like three parts, so, like the far passing, the middle passing, and the near passing.
Yeah, it's like once you learn like the difference between all three, like it's so much easier for you when you're like watching fights and you can
understand what's going
on, or like you're gonna fight against a certain person and you start understanding their guard, like where they feel comfortable, like it changes everything. Yeah. It's like I want to show leg trap is a technique that if you guys see me like fighting, you see my brother, you see Tainan, like everyone that use our system of passing, and you watch them sparring or you watch them competing, you're gonna see a lot of this technique that I'm gonna show right now. And I really believe it's a technique that evolved a lot over the years, because to me it is a variation of the leg drag without using the arm. So whenever you think about the leg drag is when you drag the leg across the body and you end up on top of the hip. So you got rid of the legs and you start passing from hip to the back or from hip to the chest.
Yep.
Okay, so like at this situation here, whenever you get to the leg drag, you are in a near distance.
Yep.
And the only way for the person to escape here is if they start pushing you away and creating some space so they can recover their legs, right? Before, whenever you like, when we start like competing and we start like coming up with like techniques and making like the techniques that were already being used like a little bit more popular because of the way we were using, we use a lot of the leg drag. And the leg drag, like, there's like multiple different ways to do it, but like there's two ways that I show in the instructional. That one is when you drag the leg across the body. So what's happening is that you are pulling the leg across.
Yep.
And the second way is when you, without moving the person, you place yourself in the leg drag position. So before I did this, like,
yep.
Now I'm gonna do this, like I move back and I place myself.
And you position yourself.
Yeah. It's like they're both very effective. They're both really good. You can combine them depending on like what kind of resistance you feel from the bottom. But we also use leg trap, is this pass here that I'm gonna show, to get to the leg drag. Because the leg drag, to me, is like one of the best positions that you can get on top, because it forces the person to give you the back. Okay, so like it's basically the last option for the person between accepting side control or giving you the back. So whenever you get to the leg drag, you are on top of the hip. Tainan here will have to make a decision. He will either try to push me, like, and start exposing his back, so his back's not on the floor now.
Or you can go inside control.
I can start going to the back. Or he's gonna have to allow me to go over his body and try to fight with the legs, which is hard. So if I start getting close to here, look, he will try to use the legs. But the second option can be very risky, because like if the person goes all the way to the side control and they have a good hold, it might be hard for you to use the legs and you get past. So a lot of times the person on bottom, they will pick the first option. They will try to post the elbow and expose their backs in order to escape. And that's why in our fights, like me, Tyne, and my brother, like you're gonna see a lot of back attacks from the top.
Yeah.
Because instead of passing and holding the person in the side control, we pass and stabilize over the hip. And whenever you stabilize over the hip, you give the person the option to try to push you away, and that allows you to take the back. So going to the technique now, normally it's from the medium distance, and I talk a lot about this distance in the instructional because it's where I feel comfortable, it's where all my techniques stay combined really well. Normally in this position I try to get a grip on the collar because I like this control. This is the grip that normally keeps me with this distance. If I don't have a grip on the collar, normally they're pushing away, I lose balance, and then they can replace their legs. So a grip on the collar here helps me to stay on top of him. Now with this hand here, I try to get a grip either on the belt, on the pants, or when we do no gi, I cup the thigh like this.
Got it.
Okay, so like this technique, like it's the same thing. You can use it no gi too. Like we use a lot this technique. The detail is the shoulder on the inside. Why? Because I want the leg to be in this position here with the knee pointing up and the foot down. If I use my shoulder on the outside, he's hooking my back, and that's gonna block the way. So elbow down, like pushing the foot down. So there is nothing in between me and him now whenever I try to go to the other side, and a good grip. If we are fighting in the gi, I prefer to have a grip on the belt because it's harder for him to break his grip.
Got it.
Now, the grip that I had on the collar, normally I try to switch the pants or I try to like just use a C grip to pin the knee down. And I'm gonna create a tripod with my body because I want him to use his arms to kind of give support to his guard. Okay, so when I do this, like, he's supporting all my weight with his arms. And that's gonna allow me to go around. Okay, so if I go here.
Okay, I love how everything is so well thought. You know, like I think like most of the users and people who are watching, that's what they love. You know, like when you have a why.
You understand what the next step is.
Yeah, it's not like, oh, we're gonna do this and this and this. You know,
Yeah.
like, there's a why behind it.
And I think that's the advantage of like studying jiu-jitsu and understanding the reaction. Like I'm saying, like if I switch my base from going, my weight was on the hip, my weight goes to the upper body, then he's gonna have to use his hand in order to pass. Like you're the person that use a lot of under over. You know, if the person's not using their hands, you're gonna pass right away, right?
Yeah.
So like if I go to this position, if he's not using the hands, it becomes under over.
Yeah, and you pass it. Yeah.
But the fact that he's blocking, he can stop my under over or like this kind of pressure. But now look, I go around. When I move around, my knee is gonna get in, and I have a leg drag now.
Yeah, and then places like so well, and
It's perfect because like now the grips that I have will allow me to finish the position, and I get to that situation where I was explaining to you, I'm on top of the hip, he needs to make a decision. You either fight with your legs or you fight with your arms. If you fight with your arms, you're gonna start pushing, and I'm gonna have the chance to go to the back. If you decide to take the risk and you allow me to get close, like you're gonna try to fight with your legs. But like this is a detail that I also show in the DVD. I'm a person that stabilizes the position sideways. Like I explain a lot about holding the position down. Like a lot of people hold side control chest on chest like this, and I think because I'm light, people always had like a easy time pushing me and recovering the guard, even when I was passing, because I was in this position. So every time like I feel I get here, they start pushing and somehow they're able to get their knee in the middle like this. So I start realizing that every time I shift my hip and I use my back to block his legs, that doesn't happen anymore. Because now like, my hip is blocking, my arm is blocking, and there's no way he can, the only thing that he's going to do now is he's going to start pushing me towards the legs, but like if he's pushing towards the legs, like, I'm in the leg drag, yeah. And then I can start scooping and going to the back.
Yeah.
So I change a lot. That's why whenever you see me fighting, you're gonna see a lot of like the knee slide, because the knee slide like puts me exactly in the position that I like to stabilize. So if I pass here, look, it's much harder for the person to escape. And even when we do techniques like, let's say I do a long step, you're gonna see that we switch back to this posture to stabilize.
Yeah, that's what I would say. Like the combinations, I think it's the key for. A lot of people do knee slice really well, right?
Yeah.
But the fact that you guys are so good on on the knee slice, on understanding the near distance, on the.
And I think like what's so special about it, like especially like to me, is like the understanding of what happens before and after. You know, like whenever you have a good understanding what like. You can predict, like say, like these are the most likely scenarios of like a person defending this technique. What should I do next when they start defending?
Yeah.
This is how the person is gonna use this kind of guard. Like when you start studying this way, I feel like you feel less surprised in the fight. Because like, as a competitor, you probably felt like the same. Like, it doesn't matter if it's like a high level training or competition. Like the worst case scenarios and when you feel that you have no answer for what the person is gonna give to you. So like you're passing a guard where like you have no idea how to pass, or like you never saw that scenario before. So like this is the kind of like a situation that makes you feel that you're wasting time because like you're thinking too much and you're not putting the plane in action. So the way we try to train. And like I always did, like throughout my whole career, was trying to analyze everything and create solutions for everything. Of course, like
and solve all the problems.
Yeah, like once in a while you're gonna find a different problem that you're not expecting. This is like how it works. But like if for the majority of the problems, like you already have a pre-made solution, and like it can make you be like much faster and like have the answer right there and like be more effective too.
Yeah, I can see like how you create systems for everything. You know, your mind is always thinking like from here to here to here. It's never like just one point.
And I think one thing that I see that we do, like I don't know how other people study, but the way we do is like I don't only think about what I'm doing. This is step number 1, 2, 3, 4 for my system. What I'm gonna do. We work a lot with like the reaction of the opponent, like what kind of reaction this person will give from this position. Because even during the drills, I always work with the person giving a 50% reaction. Like this is like basically what we do in the class. So I show the technique. Normally we drill without reaction first, so you learn the move. And the next round that we drill the technique, the person's giving 50% reaction. So you have to adapt the
So every time you teach a technique, the first part is no reaction.
No reaction.
Every single technique you teach, second part there is a reaction. Yeah, that's different.
Because what I do is like this, I show the technique step by step, and then, especially when it's a new technique or something that I'm talking about like in the training, then the person will drill. They will drill with no reaction, like just like how we normally do, or like you see normally. Then the second round, when we do the same technique, my partner is giving reactions based on like how they would defend during the fight, but like they're not going 100%, they're going 50%. But that's gonna make what I'm training differently in that round. I'm being creative in that round because I have to adapt a lot.
That's amazing.
So like that round is forcing me to think outside of the box and be creative.
That's incredible.
You know, and since I started like doing that, like training like this and like working like that, I feel like that's how you see like a lot of the students when they're competing. Like if you watch our students, like it doesn't matter if they're yellow belt, like orange belt, blue belts, like every level you're gonna see there is a certain level of creativity that like the guys like they have, and it's different. It makes them different, you know. Like they're able to improvise, they're able to create things during the fight. And I think it's because of this style of training.
When I think about you and your brother, the first word that comes to my mind is like being different, you know, like because you guys were different, pretty much like inventing one thing, like being bolo. I don't know if you guys invented it or not, but got famous after you guys started doing that over and over and over and over. Leg drag almost the same, like people you didn't used to do leg drag that much. So
I feel it's like
and this place too, like
I think like it's hard for us to think about any technique and see like who invented it, or like I don't even care about like having like this type of like being recognized for like inventing something. I think the most important is that you put your fingerprint in the position or in the system or like in anything that you do, and people start recognizing that because of you. So this is what makes it special, you know. No, I think like with Jiu-Jitsu in general, like whenever you think about like any position, like you can think about the simple arm bar, and there are like how many people did arm bar before, but then there's always a variation that somebody did that makes it special, and that variation like. And you relate that armbar to that person because of their details, because of their vision, the way they introduce that technique. So for me, that's what's the most special. Like you said, like it's about the techniques, it's about the way of teaching, it's about the way of presenting Jiu-Jitsu with the academy that we have.
When I started Jiu-Jitsu, for example, I would see pictures of Jiu-Jitsu schools. It was always like a red mat, the wall pads, and then you guys started this kind of like white style, and all I see on Instagram is like white Jiu-Jitsu school,
You know it's cool. It's like I think like this is something that really like in the beginning I remember feeling like, oh my god, like whenever you're young you always have that mindset of like people are trying to copy, but like as time passed by and you start having that feeling of, look, I feel really proud of it, like this is our work being recognized, and like because in the end like teaching Jiu-Jitsu or like having like an academy is much more than like just like a white academy, you know. It's like the system, the way you introduce Jiu-Jitsu, it's everything that you do. But if like one portion of our work, it doesn't matter if it's a technique or if it's like the academy or like anything that we do, it's able to inspire other people, it's already a reason to make us happy, you know. And like I remember like once like one person told me that like whenever like I was talking about this topic, and like after that like I always like I felt different. I was like, man, like I need to look with the eyes that look like somehow it's like what I'm doing, it's inspiring other people, and this like it's working, and like this is a reason for you to feel happy, and like that made so much sense, and like that's how I want to be with everything, you know, like with the competitions, like with the being an instructor, and like the way I lead the team, the way I have the academy, and like everything that we do, I think it needs to have like this AOJ style, you know, like this style that we do where it's like is a little bit different, and that's what's special.
Okay, I promise the last question. So when I think about you, I always think like about like a neuroscientist, you know, like you're always studying. You mentioned like studying here at least 10 times. So how do you study Jiu-Jitsu? Like in order for them to learn as well, like how you watch an instructional course, you watch fights, and you think about it. How your mind works?
I talk about this a lot in the class, and I talk to a lot of the parents because we work with a lot of kids, and the main question for the parents is always like how do I make my kid study Jiu-Jitsu? You know, how do I make my kid understand more? Or like even the adults, like sometimes they come with a question or like, what do you recommend me to study? I think everything starts with you creating a passion on something. So like I feel like I'm a very passionate person. Like I want to do my best in everything that I'm doing. So whenever I come to the mat, it doesn't matter if it's like training or teaching, like anything that I'm doing, like I try to give 100%. And once you pass that first stage of like discovering that you are very passionate about it, like everything begins like there. Then everything that I do, I try to put more focus on, more attention, and that's how I study. So if I'm coming to class and teaching, like I'm trying to give my best and like trying to think about what people are gonna do, what the steps are. We talk about the techniques or how, for example, like having students that are competitors, it's something that keeps me very updated and keeps me very alive in the Jiu-Jitsu scenario, because I watch their opponents all the time, and then I come to class, I tell them, look, like this person won this competition using this move or this guard or this passing. How would you shut this down, or what would you do here? And then they show, and then we start discussing the technique, and that creates a whole conversation, and like start creating techniques or systems like this. I do the same thing watching, like every competition, I watch the competition, I watch like whenever I see people doing a move or teaching techniques, I watch that. it's just like any other thing that you want to improve. You know, I think like if you want to be a good doctor, you're gonna study as much as possible.
And you're gonna bring that to the table
and make it real. If you want to be a lawyer, it's the same thing. Like if you want to be a good professor in jiu-jitsu, you want to be a good athlete, you need to get every tool that you have, study as much as possible, and then put it in action. Like whenever you, and with everything, like it's not just sitting there watching, but it's like really trying to implement what you're training. Like I have a lot of these students here that they come to me, they say, I watched like this person, like what do you think about it? And I always tell them like, this person does that you feel you can bring to your game. What this person, because in the end, like you always have to be yourself. You cannot be a copy of somebody else. And it's important, you can pick different things from different people, and you can put everything together and try to create your own system, your own style of fighting. But like the most important is to have a good understanding of what you're doing, right? Otherwise, like if you're just, I want to have Marcelinho's guillotine, I want to have the leg lock from Gordon Ryan, I want to have like this passing from Leandro Lo, or like any other person. Like you see every person that was a champion in the sport, and you start combining their best techniques without understanding, like you're not going to be good.
I think that's what everybody's chasing. One time we did a survey with BJJ Fanatics asking the users, like, what do you want to learn the most? And the answer was like concepts, So everybody wants
that's concept. The main reason, that's exactly where I was going to get. It's more important than learning how to do the move is like understanding how the person thinks. Because if you understand what's going on in their mind and why they are using that start making sense to you, and you can adapt that to your body type, you can adapt that to the techniques that you already use. So that's exactly why, especially for the first instructional, like in the next ones that we do, I want to start showing a little bit more of like the techniques that I use, and like go a little bit further with like the details step by step of the techniques for some techniques, but especially for the first one, like the concept and my way of thinking about the technique was like what I really wanted to show, and like I really think I was able to give like a really good lesson on that.
I have no doubts, and I saw it was very impressive. I also saw you competing your whole career, and I think you're bringing exactly what everybody wants, and kind of only you can do, because all those lightweights were very flexible, and that it's really hard to pass the guard, and you were the only one who would always do that. So.
And I think it's a big reason. It's like we spoke about this before. It's like I had very good training partners, like my brother especially, that was a very good guard player, and like whenever you have a training room where somebody's good doing something, like if you go there and you study like what the person is doing in a way to like train good against that person, you start developing your own skills. And I feel like my passing got so much better because of my brother's guard, and vice versa too. He got really good on top too, because like as I got better on top, like we were always talking about techniques, and like we improved each other.
Well, again, last thing I would say, like it's very fascinating to me that you retired as an athlete, and now you're building these guys who win world championships on every belt, and they have similar styles than you. It's not like, for example, there was a point I trained on different schools that each person would do one style in one game, And over here, they have similar styles than what you do when you teach,
I totally agree with that. And this is something that's when you see a system, or like the way of the instructor teaching is effective or not. I think it's pretty easy for an academy or a training room to have multiple different people that come from different academies and they're good already. It's like they all come, like the knee bar guy comes from this academy, the arm bar guy comes from this academy. They're all good, and there is a bunch of good guys training together. This is one thing. But whenever you have people coming up from like the lowest rank all the way to the top, and using a system that it's like the training is special, like the teaching is special, and that's what is cool. Like, it's not only here, we have different examples in other academies too, but like for me, this is the most special about teaching Jiu-Jitsu. It's when you can come up with a system and you're not only attracting outside people, because this will always happen in Jiu-Jitsu, and this is cool too, but like you are building people up with that system. And
yeah, when I see you guys' career, that happened even without students. Like there was a time, it was between 2007 and 2013, 14, that everybody was only doing berimbolo, you know.
Yeah.
It was almost like if you don't do berimbolo, you don't do jiu-jitsu.
Yeah.
And those were not your students, they were just watching what you guys were doing and copying, you know, like. And now I can see, like, when Tyne is competing, for example, the passing is very similar to your passing, you know, like, so.
It's because, like, I think, like, Jiu-Jitsu is always evolving, and you're always trying to see things that are more effective, like, especially when you're talking about competitors, like, you're trying to use, like, always the techniques that are, like, working at that time. Like, I really feel that the way Jiu-Jitsu is right now, like, with, like, a lot of people starting really young, and the more you can dominate the division, like you go there and you're not fighting to get one technique done, but you are like imposing your game with like multiple connections, like, and like in the end, you just overwhelm your opponent with like a lot of attacks, like, and like technical attacks too, because like you're not just like, it's impossible to win multiple fights if you're not technical. And I think this is the way of like winning the fight. And like basically in Jiu-Jitsu, like even if you're very good on bottom, you're gonna end up on top passing the guard, and like and that's part of what we do. So like for Tyne, he just won pants, but like he put guard like in his fights too, and like you're gonna see the passing shining. Why? Because like he goes there, he does one sweep, he ends on top, and then from the top he starts combining and like overwhelming the opponents. So yeah, it's like I agree with you. Like there was like a time where like a lot of people were doing the berimbolo. You see a lot of generations like that came after us. Like you saw like the Miaos, you saw Musumeci like using like the berimbolos and being amazing with that and winning world titles and being effective with that. They trained with us too here when we were doing that. But like the generation that we have right now, they're also really good. Like I have Jonathan here that's amazing during the berimbolo. But like the fact that he used the pressure pass and like the style of passing, the system that we use here, like a lot of times like it outshines the berimbolo part, and like you see a lot more of like the passing, because like it's easier to connect the techniques from there, and people will start getting like really interested in that.
No, I got it. No, and I think every technique is just, there's this wave that, and then there's that spike, but at some point people start getting to it. Like, wait a second. And but no, that was amazing. So guys, Gui just shot this entire instructional all about controlling distance when you're passing the guard with Gui. And it's a very fascinating system where he calls like the far pass, the middle pass, and the near pass, right?
Yes.
And it's going to come out very soon at IBJJFanatics.com. Maybe by the time you're watching, it's already there. So make sure to check that out. And thanks so much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.